Welcome to the plants of the lizard. The photograph shows you Kynance, which is one of the main hotspots. And that 1 kilometre square happens to be the richest 1 kilometre square in Cornwall for native species. Since 1999, a total of 422 flowering plants and ferns have been recorded in that monad, of which 88% or 374 are native. The lizard is a Mecca for botanists, and there's many reasons for that, and I'm going to share some of them with you. There are a few plants which only occur on the lizard, nowhere else in the world. For example, prostrate juniper, which I like to think is the oldest surviving plant in this country. Certainly juniper was one of the first plants to arrive in Britain at the end of the last glaciation, and lizard being at the southernmost point was its first place of arrival, and it's here today. Juniper has disappeared from the rest of Cornwall and Devon, and the nearest native population is roughly 200 miles away. So being so remote from that and coping with the extremes of the lizard geology and exposure and winter gales, it's evolved into a completely new subspecies unique to the lizard. A second endemic is the hybrid between southern marsh orchid and fragrant orchid, which was discovered new to science in 2016. It's a bit of a monster, as it's twice the size of a southern marsh orchid and about 4 times the size of a fragrant orchid. There are also some plants that are endemic to Cornwall which grow on the lizard as well. These include the Cornish ramping fumit tree and the Cornish dandelion. There are some plants which are only to be found on the lizard in Britain, but do occur elsewhere in Europe. For example, pygmy rush, which visiting botanists love to tick off when they visit. There are some plants which grow elsewhere in Britain, but the lizard is its stronghold. These include upright clover, which also occurs in North Wales, twin-flowered clover, and land quillwort, both of which occur on the Channel Islands. And there are some plants which don't grow anywhere else in Cornwall, but do grow in England. For example, common butterwort. There are many reasons why the lizard is so special for its flora, but the principal one is its geology. Over 300 million years ago, Cornwall was an ocean basin in which silts were being deposited over millions of years. The continents on either side, through tectonic movements, came together, crushing the area of the ocean basin and throwing up a mountain range, as you can see animated there. As the oceanic crust was subducted beneath the surface and melted in the mantle, it fed volcanoes within those mountains. But more importantly, it created a huge granite batholith which extends from Dartmoor all the way through Cornwall to the Isles of Scilly and beyond. But as for the lizard geology itself, it's unusual in that some of the oceanic crust was forced upwards by faulting instead of being pushed down into the mantle, and it's that which we've got preserved today. So today, the mountain range has long since eroded away, and what you find is the tip of the granite batholith protruding and Bodmin Moor, Carmenalis and West Penwith. And this is surrounded by what were originally the silts within the oceans, which have been metamorphosed to shales and slates. And here we've got the lizard, that fragment of the oceanic crust, which has also been metamorphosed into serpentine and schists and gabbros. So it's a unique geology. I'm now going to switch to the ERICA database, which is what we use in Cornwall for our plant records, and many others besides. So here we go again with the geology, so you can see the lizard there. there are some, the lizard is pretty unique in Britain, but there are some serpentines in Scotland. What it confers on the land is rocks that are high in magnesium, very low in nutrients. They're very hard wearing and weather very slowly. In places the soils are very thin. In other places they're waterlogged and quite deep. And especially on the western side, we get a lot of rock outcrops. There are some plants which are pretty well restricted to the lizard, like the Cornish heath, which pretty neatly, its distribution ties in with the lizard complex. These sightings were elsewhere in Cornwall. These are garden escapes, apart from one outlier on some volcanic rocks here. Another feature of the lizard is you get very strange combinations of plants, sort of acid-loving and base-loving plants growing together. And just to illustrate that, I'm going to show you distribution of acid bog plants in Cornwall. So it's generating a hotspot map. And as we would expect on the granite, you've got a concentration of acid bog species, but you also get it on the lizard. So that's acid bog species. Now this is fen, marsh and swamp species. And what it will show you is effectively the whole of the lizard is a fen. So again, the lizard will stand out as an area up for fen, bog and swamp species. Now I'll show you the map for acid grassland plants. Again, the lizard will stand out, especially the western side, as the Bobbin Moor, Snorston Moors and Penwith Moors, the granite areas. And finally, calcareous grassland. So it's really strange that the lizard is important for both plants that love base-rich conditions and highly acid conditions, both growing together. So we get these really strange combinations of plants. I'm going to zoom into Cornwall in more detail. And then superimpose the sites of special scientific interest. So you can see a very large part of the lizard is an SSSI. Just change the scale. And now I'm going to produce a map for all the designated species, the red data book, nationally scarce and so on. So you can see how important the lizard is for rare plants. And quite neatly, they do follow the SSSIs, although the rare data book plants are found all over. But outside the SSSI, they tend to be low in numbers, whereas when you get within the SSSI itself, the number of rare species increases. So at that particular spot, we've got sea asparagus, hairy greenweed, ciliate rupturewort, fringe rupturewort, which is endemic to the lizard and the Channel Islands, and dwarf rush. Another feature of the lizard is many of these rarities are very restricted in occurrence. So there's chives, prostrate asparagus, just along the coast. Baldelia is more widespread, but is very much restricted to the SSSIs. That's lesser water plantain. And Carex montana. So many of the very rare plants are highly restricted to places. And I'm just going to change the scale again. So we're going to go down to 10 meters square. And I'm going to bring up the records for Isowete cistrix, land quillwort. Which you can see it's highly localized in places, and some places on the lizard it's just found on a particular rock outcrop. So if I just draw a box around that rock outcrop, we can see what else grows there. And these here are the red data book rarest plants. So we've got things like autumn squill, and autumn lady's tresses, which happens to be the plant that's declined the most in Cornwall. Let's bring up one more plant. Pygmy rush, which illustrate another feature of the lizard in that there's some plants that only grow along the ancient trackways, cattle drover trackways. And they occur in ruts and winter wet pools. So if I just, again, draw a box around that particular trackway, and we'll see what else has been growing there. And what we find on trackways, you get a completely different suite of species. So you've got things like pillwort, and yellow century, which, if I bring up the whole total map for Cornwall, you can see that yellow century is pretty much restricted to the lizard, with a few other places outside, and there's lots and lots of sites where it's been lost. So hopefully that's given you a flavour for flowering plants of the lizard. Thank you.